Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. As I say in the video about the review, the diecast review of this newspaper shop series dedicated to the Ferrari Formula 1 cars, and that was indeed the number, I think was issue 33 if I'm not wrong, dedicated to the Mario Andretti version of the 12062. Here it is a comparison between the model that you can buy in such a shop or available like Think X or Model or Ebro produce them like ordinary car, and the Protar version of the same car. The subject is extremely similar. I use it like an explanation, with the difference that you can find from something built up by a modeler and something made by companies, because if you look at the items just like it is, like I did in the first video about this car, it might seem that you say, okay, we have a wonderful model, that's it, this is 12062. But in reality, if you look at the real 12062, despite in a different version, first of all, you can see that, for example, the wheelbase is basically the same. So the measure, consider that, in my opinion, it have been much more a challenge for Protar to build up this model in the 80s than not today with the modern technology, computer and 3D printer, to do this other model. First of all, you see the completely different shape of the body. This was Villeneuve car with this kind of wings around the suspension, and this was the latest version of 1982 from Andretti. And as you can see, there was a quite big difference between the structure of the front suspension that here became this way. That was also the reason why they had to change the final part of the body of the model. But overall, you see, I think the body produced by Protar is still today the nicest around the C2 car. First of all, in my opinion, that was an idea. I used the correct red instead. This one is a little too deep. I had the correct code for the Ferrari. When I made Ferrari, I always use that codes, and it look from the telephone you don't see so much, but it's much more Ferrari Rosso, that one, instead of this one. This look like more a kind of Alfa Romeo red that is much more darker, and that's it. And as I mentioned in the first video, there is a mysterious line. This look, the line starting from that point and arriving in the front end, how deep and how narrow it is going down there, big curve. This part of the body should be the same in the car. Look how different they made in the Protar model. You see, this line compared to this line. This is a huge difference, the same for the curve around the pilot. Remember that this area around the cockpit didn't add any kind of changings, it was just the front end that had changing and the under part of the main body that have been modified after Villeneuve and Pironi crash. So what you can see absolutely is that the wheels are different, because the Protar correctly featured the 13-inch wheels used by Villeneuve in the first part of the season. Instead, this model, being the latest one of the season, feature the 15-inch for the rim, for the main wheels, as well as they made that kind of wing behind. I don't know if it is correct or not, with this point here that in the Imola car was not present, that is made in metal by me. So is another huge difference. Then of course I don't mention the detail, because of course for the level of the money you are paying in these toys, you cannot compare to any kind of model made by somebody that build up something, but of course the level of detail is completely different. Real cable, the spark from the headers, the cables and so on, and different, completely different. The turbo, the wastegate is different, completely different, and as well as the angle, for example, of the roll bar. You see how much more straight they made it here, and how much more, you can see with your eyes, so this part that is so particular in the C2, it has been made a little bit chunky, on the rear part, and in the Protar one instead is, in my opinion, absolutely correct. Not to mention the air intakes here, they are completely fakes. Those are closed. There is just a black line that fakes the depth of the opening of the NACA duct. and then my Nakadati is completely open. So it's really a different, mostly in my opinion the most huge difference is really about the body, and mostly that the entire model gives an overall look of being a little too big for what it is. I think is much more in scale. I also made up several 1 to 20 scale Studio 27 and Fujimi models. I also currently have another one, the Long Beach version of the C2, the one with the double rear wing, and is even different. Not to mention, for example, the seat belts. That is a real seat belt with photo etched parts and decals, and it is just a stamp starting from the nothing and arriving to the nothing, you know. The rear part of the side of the pillow for the helmet, you know, different, you know. So up there was that part made this way, and then I used the photo etched set. So there is many difference, you know. I will not open it that, but if you've seen my previous video about this car, all the model that I made here have completely all the mechanical parts of the radiator and all the intercoolers arriving on this side of the model, because I wanted to do a full detail set of it. But here I just wanted to show the body differences, you know, as I was mentioning in the last part of the first video about this model. Look, for example, the aluminum part where the suspension, not to mention the level of the suspension starting such way, you know, and how it should be. I also made the rivets down there, so the base of the suspension, the rivets inside. And as you can see, there is a kind of step between the front and the nose that was holding the final part of the front body shell, and here is completely molded in a single piece. So little input was the comparison, you know, between the level. My point is that, in my opinion, they could have made an absolutely better model with the knowledge that they had today. Probably in the future they will do also this version, but with the introduction that we had about this, I really don't know. I really don't know. And so that's it, you know. It's in my opinion remains also the cornering. Look, for example, where the number 28 folders over the body of the car, and look how much more smooth it is, the 27 on Gilles Villeneuve model, you know. The host for the final part of the roll bar there with two holes that they didn't made in this model. So I don't know really what they use it for this car. Of course, we are starting from a point where the Mario Andretti model was completely different than Gilles Villeneuve car. Very different, not completely different, because basically they were the same identical car, but that was an evolution of this one that then became the C2B and the following version of 1983 and 1984. So that's it. Take your own conclusions, you know. I will not open here the coverage of this model as I said, but you know that under here there is all the work that they do to do all the mechanical of Gilles car. It's very nice, in my opinion, in a way, to have both of them in the collection, and also I think extremely interesting to do a video like this where you can see properly the difference between something handmade and something that you can buy for a few euros in shops or online. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this video and you take your own conclusions about this type of models. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.